So many players undervalue the classic. I may be a little bit biased because I dealt with this absolute joke of a default pistol for 3 years, but the classic can be a force to be reckoned with if you use it right. Looking at the stats, I can totally see why people might initially think the classic is weak. Within 30 meters, the classic is a 6 shot to the body, and beyond that distance or to the legs, it somehow manages to be even worse. However, within 30 meters, it's actually a 2-shot headshot, and that is very competitive, even against rifles and whatnot. Depending on your rank, 1 headshot and 3 body shots may also be quite viable. There is a common misconception that the Ghost shoots faster than the Classic, but they are actually tied at 6.75. The picture that the stats paint is that the Classic has a very high peak where you can combine that relatively fast firing rate with the 2-tap to land quick elims, but it also has a low minimum where it is absolutely terrible if you don't know how to use it. The Classic is semi-automatic, so it doesn't really have a spray, but the spread is kinda meh. It seems like it can cause you to miss at longer distances, but these tend to be outside the effective range of the Classic anyways. As far as moving and shooting goes, walking and shooting with tap firing was surprisingly accurate, but running and gunning is typically ill-advised. Also, this is the first weapon where I'm saying spamming could be reasonably viable. The spread gets really strange with spamming, but pulling down slightly and treating it like a spray could be very good up close. The takeaway from the spread is to quickly tap shoot in most situations, while spamming can be viable in certain close quarters fights. You can learn the right speed to tap just by giving it a quick test. Okay, let's transition into how to use the Classic. This will be separated into the pistol round and Classic versus rifles. We'll start with versus rifles because that's what most players find challenging. Against rifles, the primary goal is to neutralize the benefits the opponents have from automatics. This starts with using cover. The engagement you want to avoid at all costs is an extended straight-up fight in the open because more expensive options will be able to out-DPS the Classic really badly in the long term. It's more effective to use cover to peek out and land the 2-tap before escaping to reposition and fight again. Jiggle repeaking the same angle can be dangerous because automatic weapons can spray pre-fire. So using cover properly will help regulate fights to brief semi-automatic battles, preventing the opponents from benefiting much from full auto and larger mags. Delayed repeaks and switching angles also give the element of surprise. Surprise grants that extra time to land the 2-tap with less retaliation, which is why stealth is so good with the Classic. Walking, followed by a full speed peek is a great combo. You could run out a short distance without making noise. Peek off of teammates, not in the baiting sense, but actually during the fight to help them, and crouch spraying opponents are practically teeing themselves up to get eliminated by a clean 2-tap. Controlling distance is also super important. You need to be close enough that your fast eliminations are possible, but yet far away enough that opponents can't just crouch spray and weapon diff you. That means choosing engagements wisely instead of taking the first fight available. You can use smokes to limit the distance. Cover and distance are the core of the Classic because they reduce the impact of the advantages of automatics and force them to fight in situations where you are most strong. Smokes really combo well with the Classic, not only because of that significant advantage from seeing the opponents first when you play inside the smoke, but also to add more chaos into the mix. If you're likely to lose with whatever equipment you have in a skill-based fight, then sometimes it's better to create a situation where luck decides more of the result. This is where the right click fits in a little bit. It's sort of like a no-scope. A no-scope has significant randomness involved, but it's a risk I'm willing to take quite often, and I think of the right click in the same way. Sometimes the play is to get as close as possible and go for the right click. I also frequently use the right click as I run around through smokes when I spot an opponent in order to try to land the elim through the smoke. The right click is at the center of another viable approach to beating rifles. Instead of trying to shrink your time to eliminate, you can try to extend theirs. This means using the right click and running circles around opponents to make landing shots difficult for them, while capitalizing on how rifles must stand still in order to be accurate. This works best against singular opponents in confined areas with lots of different places to take cover. Another good usage for the right click is something called closing out. This is when you spam at an angle as you unpeak or fall back, so that opponents are discouraged from chasing you, since those who do stand a good chance of being eliminated. Aside from these methods, being as much of a rat as possible can be pretty effective. Try to find flanks or play corners in order to eliminate unsuspecting opponents while they are focused elsewhere. Ultimately, doing well against rifles comes down to creating situations that play to your strengths and reduce the impact of your opponent's strengths. This can be done primarily through combining distance control, cover, and stealth to choose engagements that favor you the most. Alternatively, a player could use confusion and chaos to maximize the impact of chance on who wins, or strive to eliminate opponents from places they don't expect. Let's transition into the classic during the pistol round. This completely changes everything because the opponents have less health, enough to the point that spamming body shots suddenly becomes way more viable, as do the right clicks. The emphasis on pistol rounds is on making shots count. Since most players have lower quantity and slower output of rounds, each shot has a greater impact. This means that using movement to make the opponent miss is a really good strategy. A lot of players, especially in medium to lower ranks, will tend to crouch spam, and while this has its place, counter-strafing and headshotting opponents who crouch spam can be way more effective. Try to stay mobile and use good tracing and tracking to delete opponents. Especially against opponents who don't buy armor, landing a precise headshot and then spamming can net a very quick elimination. The same can be said for a left-click headshot then right-click combo. This gets the benefit of a powerful right-click and puts that delay after the combo is done. A lot of players I see prefer left or right-click on pistol round. This is bad because each is situational, so just using one all the time means you will be using the worst one in some percentage of your fights. That's really all there is to the classic on pistol round. It's not very complicated, but these few tips make a world of difference. My impressions from learning the classic are that it's often underestimated. While it is incredibly bad at its lowest point, its peak is surprisingly competitive. Being able to harness that and be effective with a free weapon would make any player a force to be reckoned with. Even if you don't use it often, learning to select and set up advantageous fights is a super good skill that can be transferred over to a variety of agents and weapons. I hope you found some value in this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Best of luck and have a great day.